On this week's Waypoint, pull up a chair if you plan on playing League throughout Season 4, as massive changes are coming to support, vision, as well as the jungle, and major changes to the overall flow. We get our hands on the team builder, the Harrowing is finally here, and a few giveaways to try your luck at. What's up guys, and welcome to Waypoint, your League of Legends recap for October 31st, 2013. I'm your host, Mike Schaffnet. Now let me start off by saying that I had every intention of dressing up for this week's Harrowing episode of Waypoint. However, I checked everywhere in town and I couldn't find a kitty cat Katarina costume in my size. Discrimination. But real quick, before we get into the news, I wanted to remind you guys that here on LOL Nation TV, we've started our very own rendition of the Summoner Showcase, featuring all of the amazing work that you guys are doing in the community.
Let 'em wonder how we won our lane, 'cause I don't really need to wonder at all. Yeah, after all this time, I'm still all to you.
So if you want to check out some awesome community-featured work, be sure to check out our very own Summoner Showcase. Next up, Zelnith took some time to explain in great detail how all of our undervalued yet extremely vital support champions would be changing for Season 4. However, to start the post, Zelnith brought up two fairly large contradictions that plague support champions in Season 3. The first was that players who don't last hit but also share their lane have minimal amount of gold income. The problem here is that these players are expected to purchase wards, and wards cost gold. Not having wards can drastically change the outcome of the game, and thus, if played properly, these players are virtually starved. The second contradiction is that warding requires you to move away from your allies constantly. However, supportive champions want to be near their teammate as much as possible so that they can protect each other when needed. Because of this, 0 CS warding duo lane support players are the poorest players with the highest consumable expense, which greatly denies the second half of their growth experience. So to change this, Riot has a few plans on how they want to address changes that will appear in the preseason of Season 4. To do this, they're going to increase the gold income for players who don't last hit, introduce bonus XP in jungle and lane for players who significantly fall behind their teammates, cap possible expenditures on wards per player, and give players access to free vision items that we'll talk about here shortly. To further compensate for this, new income will appear through masteries that grant bonus gold to players who are in a shared lane, as well as improvements to gold per 5 items, and an increase in assist rewards for players who get significantly more assists than kills. Riot is working on items like Executioner's Emblem, which will execute a minion below 200 health and grant bonus gold to both you and the nearest ally when you last hit. Another item being added is the Spell Feast Blade, which makes your spells and basic attacks against champions grant bonus gold every 10 seconds. Riot is even adjusting the Philosopher's Stone so that when an ally kills a minion, you'll earn gold as well. All of these changes should greatly affect how the support champions are played within League of Legends, and it's going to be interesting to see how this new gold income will ultimately affect the balance of the current meta. Zelnith goes into even more detail on this topic, but if you want more in-depth information on the changes that are coming to support champions, I highly recommend that you guys go check out his Reddit posts, and we'll be sure to have a link in the description below. Season 3 competitive play relied largely on vision control. Control the map, you control the game. But although vision control and warding is supposed to be a team effort, the burden mostly fell onto the support. What we ended up seeing was a meta that almost forced the support player to ignore buying any kind of late game item and instead focus much of their meager spending income on wards or oracle elixirs. The problem with this was that once a team fell behind, the other team was able to have a higher chance of snowballing the game. Once the team had an advantage, they were able to afford more wards, and as such, gain a much larger chance of catching the enemy's player movements. Wards equal kills, which equal more wards, which equal more kills. See the problem? Well, Riot set out to fix this by making sure that the responsibility of vision control will be spread amongst the team and not just focused on a single player. To accomplish this, they have made changes to the way in which players use their wards and to the wards themselves. First off, each player will be limited to placing no more than 3 green wards at a time. Once you reached your limit of 3 wards, placing another will make the oldest one disappear. Additionally, Sight Wards, or Green Wards, have been renamed to Stealth Wards and are pretty much left unchanged. Vision Wards, however, are receiving some significant changes. From now on, Pink Wards will no longer be invisible, but they'll still grant vision of stealth and invisible objects. This should help encourage strategic placement, since you'll still want them in an area that will ensure proper vision of objectives and possibly enemy wards, but also can be in a spot that you can reasonably defend. Another major change is that your team will only be allowed to have one vision ward per player on the map at a time. 5 pink wards, people, so use them wisely. To compensate, Riot has lowered the price of pink wards so that they'll no longer be a major purchasing decision. Also, once placed, these new wards will stay indefinitely unless they're either destroyed or you place down another one. But what about the 6-item Corki, or the 80 carry that just can't afford to give up an item slot just to put down a few wards? Well, Riot thought of that as well, since in addition to the new warding mechanics, they're also going to be adding trinkets. These new items are completely free and take up their own additional slot, while allowing you to swap around the trinkets while you're still at the store. So let's take a look at each of the different trinkets and analyze what each one of them will do. First, we have the Sweeper, which disables nearby invisible units and wards the area for a short time. However, the downside right now to the Sweeper is that it doesn't reveal invisible champions and has a relatively long cooldown, so be sure to use it wisely. Next up is the Totem, which places a stealth ward that lasts for 1 to 2 minutes depending on your level. For those of you junglers out there, think something like the Wriggles Lantern. Keep in mind that this ward will count towards your total limit, so make sure to take that into account before placing it, as it will cause your oldest ward to disappear. And the final trinket we have is the Lens, which acts as a little mini clairvoyance, revealing parts of the map, granting you temporary vision through the fog of war. What Riot is hoping to do with these new trinkets is give both teams the tools that they need to share the burden of vision control, while at the same time limiting them so that teams don't feel obligated to spam wards everywhere just to keep up with their opponents. Next up, Feral Pony hopped onto Reddit to explain some major changes that are coming that will ultimately affect the entire flow of every single match. Subjects like kill assist gold, game objectives, experience, jungle, and a whole lot more are seeing significant changes. So let's touch briefly on what will be happening to each and every one. Objectives like Baron and Dragon are going to be seeing some significant reworks. Dragon's gold and experience will now ramp up over time, making it a much more pivotal objective in the late game, as it will allow the losing team to try and make up for lost ground. Baron's buff will be changing to provide things more along the lines of movement speed or bonus damage to turrets, to allow for greater sieging to the endgame instead of overwhelming teamfight potential. Turrets will now grant less team-wide gold for going down, but the amount of gold given to the players responsible for destroying the turret is going up. Downing an inhibitor will no longer grant stronger minions to lanes that still have an inhibitor active. Instead, minions in that lane with the downed inhibitor will now push harder than ever before. Minions and jungle spawn timers are being moved up to happen earlier in the game to allow for the pace to pick up more quickly. In addition, the L and C shaped bushes will now be adjusted so that players can gain entire vision of the brush with just one ward. Now, these changes are going to have some significant impact for the overall flow of the game for everyone. So for a detailed reason behind all of these changes, be sure to check out Feral Pony's post on Reddit by checking the link in the description below. During Season 3, junglers were often forced to pick from a certain select pool of champions that fit the current meta, thus limiting what champions would be viable for competitive play. The junglers would oftentimes have to give up on farming the jungle itself and rely on gold from lane ganks in order to fund their mid-game items. This is good in theory, but when junglers weren't able to pull off early ganks or gain assists by applying lane pressure, they would start to fall behind the rest of their team. Another issue was teammates poaching camps from the jungler, further limiting their gold flow, most notably the golems and wraiths. So how is Riot going to go about fixing these issues? Well, Riot's Soul Crush took to the forums to give a little bit of insight on some of the ideas that the company has in mind for Season 4. To start things off, Riot wants to add more flexibility in the jungle by adding another camp near the blue buff and wolf camps. Additionally, more far-centric junglers like Amumu will be able to pull roughly the same amount of gold and experience as a solo laner if their goal is to farm their way into the mid game rather than rely on early ganks to get them there. Also, while counter jungling will still be a viable strategy, players who are on the receiving end of this won't be knocked so far behind that they're unable to recover any ground. But adding an extra camp isn't the only thing that Riot has planned. Oh no! In addition to the extra resources, neutral monsters in the jungle will now scale with the average level of all champions and will grant bonus gold and experience when killed by a person that's lower level. What this does is make farm-focused jungling a viable playstyle, as well as giving jungler and other players a way to come back from a large gold or level deficit. This also encourages teammates to leave that level 12 Wraith camp for a level 10 jungler so that they can get the extra rewards. Riot is also looking to fine-tune their jungler-specific items in order to put additional gold into the jungler's pockets. What they're thinking is 3 different items that cater to the different playstyles of each jungler. First, Wriggle's Lantern will now be tuned to grant lower combat stats and give you a very big increase in bonus gold from killing neutral monsters. Next, Spirit of the Ancient Golem will now be geared towards junglers who spend more time in the lane helping their teammates than in the jungle farming. And finally, Spirit of the Spectral Wraith will now cater to mage junglers who rely heavily on blue buff to clear jungle camps. I'm looking at you, Amumu. The item will now grant health and mana back equal to a percentage of the spell damage that you deal to monsters. In addition to all this information, Riot has hinted at changes that are coming to both red and blue buffs, but has declined to give us any of the details. Let's move on, but before I do, I want to tell you guys about a sponsor that helps make this show possible, Shutterstock.com. Shutterstock is a must-have tool for anyone in the creative industry with over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. Injecting your website with some instant credibility is easy to do when using Shutterstock.com. Whether you need still photography, stock footage, or even art assets for a website or YouTube channel, Shutterstock.com is the place to be. If you guys don't believe me, I promise we use Shutterstock every day here at GameBreaker TV. Most recently, we launched our cross-game social club titled the GameBreaker Nation, and where do you think we went when we needed an image for this? You guessed it, Shutterstock.com. You can try Shutterstock today without using a credit card by signing up for a free account and save all of your favorite images to a lightbox to review them later. Once you're ready to purchase, use the offer code GameBreaker10 and you'll receive 25% off your new account. Team Builder hit the PvE recently, and with the tight schedule of when it was actually available, we were lucky enough to get on and try it out, so here's what we found. After playing around with it for a while, some of the questions that we posed earlier have been answered, and I'm going to try and give as much information on the new system as possible and answer as many questions as I can. I'd like to kick this off by first stating that so far, the system in place does not let you queue for more than one role at a time. There is an option to queue for every role, but you can't queue for multiple roles like mid and jungle or mid and top. It's either one specific role or all of the roles. When queuing up for a specific role like support, Riot doesn't limit you to the champions that they state are support champions and actually gives you the freedom to choose whoever you want. Now, this is great because not only is it not forcing the meta, but it allows people to continue to try new and innovative things like maybe Ahri or Brand Jungle. Now, if you guys remember from a few weeks ago, a huge concern that we had before the system was released was the queue times. After messing around with the system for a little while, I can proudly say that we were never in a queue time for any longer than a minute, despite being told by the system that it would take a long time to queue. And that's just amazing because remember the fact that this is on the PvE environment and there aren't that many players that have access to it. Get ready to lose your entire paycheck because after weeks of keeping us on the edge of our seat, the Harrowing is finally upon us. Now I can spend all of my money on champions like Haunted Zyra, Zombie Brand, and Frank and Annie. That's right, all of the skins that we showcased just a few weeks ago are finally here, so swoop on in and pick them up while you still can. I know I'm gonna go do it right now.
Get back to work, Mike!
I never get to have any fun around here! Meow. Alright, before we wrap up the show, everybody loves a good giveaway, and this week we have 2 that we want to tell you about. First up, last week we told you guys if we hit 15,000 subscribers that we would give away $10 in Riot points to 5 of our subscribers. And once again, you guys shared the video with the community and we hit our goal in less than a week. Thank you once again to everyone and for subbing, and we hope that you continue to watch all of our content. With that out of the way, let's get right to it. The 5 winners of the $10 in Riot Points are Daft Project, Natty Levi, King Wukong, Eric K, and Evans 527 XXX. Congratulations guys, we'll be contacting you to figure out the best way to deliver you your Riot Points. But for those of you out there who didn't win, there's always more chances here on LOL Nation TV, so be sure to keep your eyes on all of our uploaded videos, as we hope that you'll continue to subscribe, and we'll hold another giveaway when we reach 25,000. As a side note, we cannot thank you guys enough for all of the love and support of this channel. The reason that this channel is growing as fast as it is because of summoners like you who are sharing our videos with your friends or posting them on websites like Reddit. A big thank you to each and every one of you. We cannot thank you guys enough, and we hope that we continue to grow with you. If waiting for 25,000 subscribers is too long for another giveaway, then you guys should check out lolking.net, as they're giving away 30 copies, yes, 30 copies of any game of your choice from G2A.com. From Saints Row 4 to Call of Duty Ghosts, all you have to do to enter is click the link in the description below and leave a comment telling them what Harrowing skin you'd like to see made into a champion. Any and all champion ideas are fair game, so from trick-or-treating Teemo to Frankenstein Yorick, simply head on over to lolking.net and enter for your chance to win today. And if you guys haven't checked out LOL King's amazing League Trends recap, be sure to do that as well. Each week, Lindsay Geektron and Cloth5 recap stats from LOL King's database to bring you weekly trends in top picks, bans, as well as wins within League of Legends. So if you haven't checked out the show or their YouTube channel, you can do so by clicking right here. That does it for this week's episode of Waypoint. Be sure to check back every week on Thursday for updated League of Legends news. If you guys liked this video, please like and comment below, as it helps spread our audience. And if you want to see more League of Legends content, recaps, as well as updates, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, LOL Nation TV. We also just started our very own rendition of the Summoner Showcase, so if you guys haven't checked out that video, be sure to do so by clicking right here. I'm Mike Shaftnet. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Mike Shaftnet. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next Waypoint.
Game Breaker TV.